Today I'm going to look at clip points and also I'm going to talk about swedges, false edges, and sharpened swedges.
So, what is a swedge and what is a false edge? And is there such a thing as a sharpened swedge? Uh, the sharpened swedge is something you'll hear quite often, and really, technically, it does not exist. You either have a swedge or a false edge. Now, we have two knives here. One of them has a swedge, and one of them has a false edge. The difference is this one here has the swedge. And what a swedge is it's basically where they remove some of the blade stock to lighten the blade and also make it easier for it to pierce. The difference though is if you notice here, I can run my finger along this because it is not sharp. A swedge is not sharp. And that's where the confusion comes in. You hear swedge and you think, okay, that's the edge on the top of the blade. And while it is on the top of the blade, it is not a sharpened edge. The false edge, which sounds kind of goofy, is actually sharp. And so that is what some people refer to as a sharpened swedge. This actually has an edge to it, and you can actually cut with it. And as you can see, it looks very much like a swedge. The difference is it's sharpened. And the reason it's called a false edge is because it does not come all the way to the back. So basically, the false edge only comes back a certain portion of the blade. For instance, with this V42, well, it's a replica of the V42, you have two edges that come all the way back, and both edges are sharpened, so that is called a double-edged knife. But with the false edge, such as you see here on this M4 bayonet, the top edge, which is also sharpened, only comes back halfway. And this is something you see more in swords, and that's actually where the term comes from. It's more common in swords where you have only a portion of the top of the blade or the spine of the blade sharpened. When you think about it, a knife with two edges does not have a spine, but because the spine does come out here and is sharpened to a degree, in this case almost half the blade, that's when you have it referred to as a false edge, because this is the full edge up here and this edge does not come all the way back, so it's called a false edge because, well, there you look like it and it looks like a double-edged knife. And in fact, when you start talking about it legally, this is referred to as a double-edged knife because both edges have, or both sides of the blade have some form of sharpened edge. A swedge is legal in many places. A false edge is not, because then it's considered a double-edged knife. So to recap, a swedge is where they remove material away from the spine in order to make it easier for the knife to pierce at the front, but that edge remains dull the entire length all the way up, at least near the tip of the point. So you can actually run your finger along the swedge and not risk cutting it. But it does look like the edge would be sharpened. On the other hand, a false edge is actually sharp. And it is a term that started off in the world of swords, where you have a spine, and then as you get to the end, they have removed material to create a point, but this portion is also sharp. And you can actually cut yourself, so you cannot run your finger along it. And it does sound counterintuitive that you would think that false edge would mean that it is not sharp, but it is actually sharp. And it is often referred to as a sharpened swedge, but technically it is a false edge. let's talk clip points. I think everyone knows what a clip point is on a knife. Very common to see. It's probably, after you get past the spear blade, this is probably the most common type of blade you'll see, where when you get towards the blade is coming straight out, but when you start getting to the end, it takes a sharp angle towards the center line of the knife. Sometimes, especially, this is a folding knife, especially on folding knives, it'll probably drop below the center line. On a fixed blade knife, it may not even go down as far as the center line. And this portion of the clip may or may not be sharpened. There may or may not be a swedge on it, but it'll be cut off, coming down to form a point. And the idea is to get the point closer to the center line of the knife so it's easier to pierce. That's part of it. And also just to lighten the weight of the knife out at the tip of the blade. This is a very straight line clip point. If you notice, this is very straight. There's no curve in it at all, which is a very common style of clip point. But you will also find them with a convex curve going on with it, which will lead the point to go up a little bit. Again, this is still mainly to bring the piercing point of the knife closer to the center line of the knife. In this case, we're looking at a fixed blade knife, so it doesn't drop as far, which is also very common on fixed blade knives. It usually has a little more belly going on in the bottom, so you have more of the blade coming up to reach the point. But in any case, you still have that portion of the blade cut out here, which allows it to pierce a little bit better, and also lightens the point a bit. Okay, so we got the basic clip point out of the way, but we also know that not every clip point looks like this. The clip points can start way back here, they can start near the center of the knife, they can sometimes start even further back. Is there different names for different types of clip points? And the long and the short of it is, yeah, there's all sorts of different names because different makers call those clip blades different names. And the one place where there is somewhat agreement is if the clip point on the blade goes back to somewhere around the center line, like you see on this copperhead, on this blade of the copperhead, it's kind of close to the center of the knife. You see it similarly on this case Stockman here. Notice how that clip is starting around the center of the blade, and just about every trapper you find will find the blade starting almost a little bit behind the center of the blade and going forward. And what these clips are normally referred to is a long clip. It's very simple. If the clip begins around the center of the blade, you know, give or take a few millimeters one way or the other on a small knife, but if it's somewhere around the middle of the blade that the clip starts, then it's normally referred to as a long clip as opposed to just a clip blade. And some people will even call the shorter clips a short clip. But that's about where any kind of agreement ends, that a clip point that is beginning around the middle of the blade, such as here, is referred as a long clip. It doesn't matter if it has a convex grind or if it's a straight drop. It's just a long clip blade. But then you have the ones that begin even further back. And that's where the confusion comes in. We have here a case toothpick. And on this knife, we have a blade that is called numerous names. And that is probably where you get an argument sometimes over what kind of blade this is. Depending on the knife maker, it's going to be called a Turkish clip or a California clip. And the thing is these same knife makers will have another blade in their lineup that they will call by the opposite name. But what you have here is a blade that about a quarter way into the spine, the blade begins with its cutout or clip all the way to the end. So it's well past the midline that the clip begins. And sometimes you will hear this referred to as a Turkish clip or a California clip. Case, they usually call it a muskrat clip because this is the clip blade that they use in their muskrat knives, and so they just call it their muskrat clip. Is it a California clip or a Turkish clip? That really depends on what you want to call it, because we also have this blade here, which doesn't have a defined point at all, and this is also called a Turkish clip. And you see it's got an interesting line going on, but other makers will also refer to this as a California clip. And we also have this blade here, which is sometimes called a Turkish clip, and it's almost all the way out to the midline, but other places will call it a California clip. And to make matters worse, some people will even call this a Spanish clip. And here's where some of the confusion will come in. This clip blade begins right at the tang. You can barely tell that is it even a clip blade, but it is a clip blade, and the clip on this copperhead starts right at the tang and begins to drop. And some companies will refer to this as their Turkish clip while they're calling this their California clip, and another company will refer to this as their Turkish clip while referring to this as a California clip. And some people will just call this their trailing point Skinner blade. I prefer to think of this as a trailing point Skinner blade than any kind of actual clip blade at all. So, because that's the first way I heard that blade described, as a trailing point Skinner blade. I've often heard this referred to as both ways, but the first time I heard it referred to as a California clip, so I got into the habit of calling it a California clip. Then what do you also call this on a rustlock? I just refer to this as the rustlock clip blade, and it's a long clip, but it is also could easily be referred to as a Turkish clip blade. And just to add to the confusion, I've also heard people refer to this as a Spanish clip. And that kind of makes sense too. And that would also fall into the line with the Turkish clip, because the blades in Spain were influenced through Morocco, which had their influence coming through Turkey and everything else. So that's why the blades are called what they're called. It depends on how far back you want to track the knife to decide what kind of blade it was. And the word is, I have heard a couple reasons why this is called a California clip. One of them being that it supposedly looks like California. I really don't see that so much, especially even with because there's just not enough of a recurve in the blade. A kukri looks more like California than this blade. I think why it might have got the name California clip is because of the Spanish influence in California, and these kind of blades may have been showing up in California earlier than other styled knives. And so when other settlers made it into California and they started seeing the Spanish influence in the area, and they started saying, I want one of those knives with that clip like you see on those blades in California. I think that might have been where it came from, because the Spanish style blades out in California at the time. Could be totally wrong. I don't really know about that. The way these names come about is really kind of problematic. and I'm not going to try and change anyone's mind. If you want to call this a Turkish clip, I'm all happy with that. If you want to call it a California clip, I'm all happy with that. And if you want to call this a Spanish clip, I'm fine with that too. I think any of those names are fine, because different knife makers call it different things. So if they can't make up their mind, why should us collectors make up our minds either? I think it's more important to understand that a blade like this may be called a California clip, a Turkish clip, or a Spanish clip. And if you're a knife collector, get ready for somebody to refer to it as that way. And if you're trying to sell it, someone says, well, that doesn't look like a Spanish clip, it looks like a Turkish clip to me. Don't argue with them. Say, yeah, that you're right. Just say, oh yeah, you're right, it's a Turkish clip. You're right, I think I should sell it for more now. You know, instead of me selling it to you for $70, you're right, it is a Turkish clip. I'm going to make it $75 and see if they change their mind and make it a California clip for $5 savings. In any case, there's my thoughts on the various clip blades. The important thing to remember is that if it's around the midline, it's normally referred to as a long clip. If it's up closer to the front and you got a lot more straight on the back, then it's normally just referred to as a clip blade, or maybe a short clip. But once you get into those exceedingly long clips, it could be a Spanish clip, it could be a California clip, it could be a Turkish clip, it could be a muskrat blade. Any of those names will work fine if you're trying to describe the knife. Oh, and as an addendum, when it comes to Spanish clips, normally this is the style blade I think of when I hear Spanish clip, and it's a blade that has a radical drop into a clip, and usually with a saber grind. And that's more in line with what I think of as a Spanish clip. Usually it's a wide belly blade with a very radical drop. And you see another one here. Notice how the blade drops radically and then straightens out. That's usually what I think of when I think of a Spanish clip. And I think some people also refer to this as a Turkish clip. So again, don't get too hung up on it. Those are a variety of different clip blades. If someone wants to call this a Turkish clip, don't argue with them. If they want to call it a Spanish clip, don't argue with them, especially if they're willing to pay more for it. You can call it whatever you want to call it, because different knife makers are going to refer to it in different ways. It's more important for you to know that when you see these different blades, that it may be called different ways. And it also gives you an idea of, if you have a knife like that, and it's like, do I want to call it a Spanish clip or a Turkish clip? I'm going to go with Turkish, or I'm going to go with Spanish. You know, that would be my idea. You know, make up your mind and then stick with it. I call these a Spanish clip.